Hello there, and welcome to the Snoozy Explorer. Tonight, we turn our attention to one of the ocean's smallest wonders. Shrimp live in nearly every corner of the watery world, from sunlit tide pools to depths where darkness never lifts. They scuttle across sandy bottoms and drift through open currents. Some glow softly in the night, while others vanish into perfect camouflage. These small beings have mastered survival in ways that feel both ancient and inventive. Their lives connect to coral cities, deep sea vents, and even the rivers that empty into coastal bays. In learning about shrimp, we discover patience, adaptation, and the beauty of living small in an enormous sea. If this quiet journey brings you comfort, feel free to like, subscribe, or leave a thought below about what surprised you most. It helps others find this space when sleep feels far away. But for now, there is nothing you need to remember or accomplish. Let your breathing deepen. Allow your muscles to settle into wherever you are resting. Feel the weight of your body becoming heavier, more rooted, more still. We will move slowly through these small lives together, and there is no hurry at all. Let's begin. A shrimp's heart sits in its head, not its chest. When you picture where a heart belongs, you might think of the center of the body, tucked behind ribs and muscle. For a shrimp, that geography shifts forward. The heart rests in the upper portion of the body, closer to what we might call the head region. Blood flows from there through open channels rather than sealed veins, bathing the internal organs in a gentle circulation. This arrangement works because shrimp are small, and their tissues can receive oxygen through diffusion across shorter distances. The heart does not need to push hard against high pressure. It simply keeps things moving at a pace that suits a creature built for efficiency rather than speed. Marine researchers study this layout because it reveals how different body plans can solve the same problem of delivering nutrients and removing waste. In the water, where buoyancy supports the body and temperature stays relatively stable, a shrimp's heart can remain simple and effective. It beats quietly in the head, a soft rhythm that sustains a life spent among stones and seagrass. Shrimp can regrow lost legs and antennae over several molts. If a shrimp loses a leg to a predator or an accident, the story does not end with permanent damage. During the next molt, when the shrimp sheds its old shell and emerges soft and vulnerable, the missing limb begins to regrow. At first, the new leg appears smaller and less developed than the others. With each additional molt, it continues to rebuild, slowly approaching the size and function of the original. Antennae follow the same patient process, reforming segment by segment, until they can once again sense the water for food and danger. This ability changes how a shrimp experiences injury. A close call with a crab or a sharp rock does not necessarily mean a permanent disadvantage. It means a temporary setback followed by careful reconstruction. Biologists observe this regrowth to understand how cells know what to build and when to stop. The shrimp does not think about healing. It simply follows an ancient script written into its biology, one that trades immediate perfection for long-term resilience. Some shrimp species change color to match their surroundings within days. A shrimp resting on green algae may develop a greenish tint, while one that moves to brown seaweed can shift toward earth tones. This transformation does not happen in seconds like the flash of a squid, but it unfolds over hours or days as pigment cells expand or contract in response to what the eyes perceive. The result is a living camouflage that adjusts to slow changes in habitat. If a shrimp stays in one place long enough, it can blend so thoroughly that even careful observers might overlook it. This gradual color shift serves as protection in a world full of hungry fish and prowling crabs. It also shows how vision and skin can communicate within a single body, translating light and color into chemical signals that rearrange appearance. Researchers study these color changes to learn about perception and adaptation, watching how a shrimp reads its world and then rewrites its surface to match. Cleaner shrimp set up stations where fish arrive to be groomed. On certain coral heads and rocky outcrops, small shrimp establish what function like service centers. Fish approach these stations and pause, holding still while the shrimp crawl over their bodies, picking off parasites, dead skin, and bits of debris. The fish could easily swallow the shrimp, yet they remain calm, sometimes opening their mouths and gill covers to allow access to hard-to-reach places. The shrimp benefit from a reliable source of food, and the fish leave healthier and more comfortable. This interaction depends on recognition and routine. Both parties seem to understand the rules, and both return repeatedly when the arrangement works well. Biologists watch these stations because they reveal cooperation between species that might otherwise ignore each other. A cleaner shrimp is small and delicate, yet it holds a position of quiet authority on the reef. Its presence can attract multiple clients in a single day, turning a tiny patch of coral into a bustling intersection of mutual benefit. Mantis shrimp have the most complex eyes in the animal kingdom. While most creatures see the world through a few types of color receptors, mantis shrimp possess far more, allowing them to perceive a range of colors and polarized light that remains invisible to us. Their eyes move independently, swiveling to track different objects at once, and each eye contains structures that process visual information before it even reaches the brain. This means a mantis shrimp can react quickly to movement and color shifts, which helps in hunting and communication. The eyes sit on stalks, giving the animal a wide view of its surroundings without needing to turn its body. Researchers study these eyes to understand how vision can be built in radically different ways and what advantages come from seeing details most animals miss. For the mantis shrimp, complex vision supports a life lived in competition and precision, where recognizing a rival or spotting prey in dappled light can determine success. The world through their eyes might look overwhelming to us, layered with information and detail that would feel impossible to process. Yet for them, it simply feels like seeing. Pistol shrimp create bubbles that reach temperatures hotter than the sun's surface. When a pistol shrimp snaps its specialized claw shut, it generates a jet of water moving so fast that a bubble forms and then collapses with extraordinary violence. That collapse produces a sharp crack and a brief flash of light, and for a fraction of a second, the temperature inside the bubble can soar to thousands of degrees. The heat does not last long enough to cook anything or cause visible burns, but it creates a shockwave strong enough to stun small fish and prey. This makes the pistol shrimp one of the loudest animals in the sea relative to its size. Entire colonies snapping together can fill shallow bays with crackling static that interferes with underwater communication. Scientists study this phenomenon because it sits at the edge of physics and biology, showing how a simple motion can unlock extreme conditions. The shrimp does not wield fire or lightning. It wields precision and speed, turning water itself into a tool. Some shrimp live their entire lives inside sponges, never leaving. Certain small shrimp find their way into the interior chambers of a sponge while still young, and once inside, they grow too large to escape through the narrow openings. The sponge becomes both home and prison, though the shrimp seem content with the arrangement. Water flows through the sponge constantly, bringing food particles and oxygen, so the shrimp can filter and feed without ever venturing into open water. Predators cannot reach them, and the stable environment protects them from strong currents and temperature swings. Often, a male and female will be trapped together, allowing them to reproduce within their shared chamber. Their offspring are small enough to drift out and find new sponges, continuing the cycle. Biologists find this lifestyle fascinating because it shows how confinement can become safety when conditions inside are better than conditions outside. The shrimp trade freedom for security, and in the process, they turn a sponge into a lifelong shelter. Shrimp larvae drift as plankton before settling on the seafloor. A baby shrimp does not look like its parents. It begins life as a transparent, drifting form that rides ocean currents far from where it hatched. During this planktonic stage, the larva feeds on even smaller organisms and grows through a series of molds, each one bringing it closer to the adult shape. This drifting period can last days or weeks, depending on the species and the currents. Eventually, the larva senses the right kind of habitat, often through chemical cues or changes in light, and it settles onto the bottom. There it transforms into a recognizable shrimp and begins the next phase of life. This strategy allows shrimp to spread across wide areas and to colonize new habitats that adults might never reach by crawling. It also means that early life is precarious, full of open water and hungry mouths. Many larvae do not survive, but the ones that do can find themselves in places far from their origins, ready to start again. Brine shrimp can survive in water saltier than the ocean. Most marine life thrives within a narrow range of salinity, but brine shrimp inhabit places where salt concentrations climb to levels that would kill ordinary organisms. These environments include desert salt flats, evaporating lakes, shallow ponds where water chemistry swings wildly. Brine shrimp manage this by regulating their internal salt balance with remarkable precision, pumping excess salt out and retaining the water they need. They can also enter a dormant state when conditions become too extreme, producing cysts that can survive for years in dry, harsh environments. When water returns, the cysts hatch, and the cycle begins again. Scientists use brine shrimp in laboratories because they are hardy and easy to culture, but they also study them to understand how life adapts to chemical extremes. In a world where most creatures would shrivel or bloat, brine shrimp simply adjust and continue. Certain shrimp form lifelong pairs, living together in coral crevices. Monogamy is not common in the sea, yet some shrimp species commit to a single partner and share a small territory for the duration of their lives. The pair defends their crevice or burrow from intruders, and both members contribute to maintaining the space and protecting eggs. This partnership can improve survival because two sets of eyes and claws are better than one when it comes to spotting predators or chasing away rivals. The bond seems to be reinforced through regular interaction and cooperation, with each shrimp recognizing its partner and responding differently to strangers. Researchers observe these pairs to understand how social bonds form in invertebrates and what benefits come from staying together. For the shrimp, partnership might mean better access to food, safer shelter, and more successful reproduction. It also means a kind of constancy in a changing reef, where the same companion appears day after day in the same small home. Shrimp communicate through touch, using their antennae to sense neighbors. In murky water or at night, vision becomes less reliable, so shrimp rely on other senses to navigate their social world. Long, sensitive antennae sweep the area around them, detecting vibrations, chemicals, and the presence of other bodies. When two shrimp meet, they may tap or stroke each other's antennae in what appears to be a form of recognition or negotiation. These interactions can signal aggression, submission, or acceptance, depending on the context and the species. Touch provides information that vision might miss, such as the size and health of a neighbor or the readiness of a potential mate. Biologists study these tactile exchanges because they reveal a quieter form of communication, one based on proximity and texture rather than color or sound. A shrimp's world is built from what it can feel in the water, and those feelings shape how it moves, feeds, and coexists with others. Some shrimp burrow in mud and pump water to create oxygen flow. Life in soft sediment presents a challenge because the deeper layers can become low in oxygen, making it difficult for buried animals to breathe. Certain shrimp solve this by digging U-shaped burrows and then rhythmically pumping water through the tunnel. This creates a current that brings fresh, oxygen-rich water from above down into the burrow, allowing the shrimp to stay buried while still breathing comfortably. The burrow also provides protection from predators and a stable environment where temperature and salinity change less dramatically than at the surface. Other small creatures sometimes take advantage of these these burrows, sheltering in the tunnels, or benefiting from the water flow the shrimp maintains. Engineers study these burrowing behaviors because they show how small animals can modify their environment in ways that influence the chemistry and structure of the seafloor. A single shrimp digging and pumping might seem insignificant, but across a mudflat, thousands of them together can reshape the habitat. Shrimp exoskeletons must be shed to allow growth. A shrimp cannot grow smoothly like a fish. Its hard outer shell does not stretch, so growth happens in bursts tied to molting. When the time comes, the shrimp produces a new, soft shell beneath the old one, then splits the old shell and pulls itself free in a careful, vulnerable process. For a short time, the shrimp is soft, almost defenseless, and it often hides until the new shell hardens through mineralization. During this period, it can also regrow lost limbs and repair damage. Molting is risky because a shrimp caught mid-molt can become easy prey, and complications during the process can be fatal. Yet, it is also essential, allowing the animal to increase in size and to shed parasites or damaged tissue along with the old shell. Researchers study molting to understand growth regulation and the hormonal signals that trigger such a dramatic transformation. A shrimp's life is measured in these cycles, each molt marking a small victory over the limits of its own armor. Freshwater shrimp play a role in cleaning rivers and streams. In rivers and lakes around the world, small shrimp species feed on decaying plant matter, algae, and tiny organisms, helping to break down organic material that might otherwise accumulate. By grazing and filtering, they speed up decomposition and nutrient cycling, which keeps the water clearer and the ecosystem more balanced. Fish, birds, and larger invertebrates rely on these shrimp as food, making them an important link between plants and predators. Some species are sensitive to pollution, so their presence or absence can indicate the health of a waterway. Conservationists monitor freshwater shrimp populations because declines can signal larger problems with water quality or habitat destruction. These shrimp do not draw attention the way salmon or otters might, but they perform quiet, essential work that supports the entire community. A river without its shrimp can lose clarity, productivity, and resilience. Deep-sea shrimp live without sunlight, relying on falling organic matter. Far below the surface, where no light penetrates, shrimp still find ways to thrive. They feed on marine snow, the constant drift of particles, and dead organisms sinking from the layers above. This food arrives slowly and unpredictably, so deep-sea shrimp tend to be patient and efficient, conserving energy and feeding opportunistically. Some have adapted to sense chemical cues from decaying matter, allowing them to locate food in total darkness. Others gather near seafloor features where currents concentrate nutrients. These shrimp often appear pale or translucent because pigments that protect against sunlight are unnecessary in the deep. Their lives unfold in cold, high-pressure stillness, a world away from the bright chaos of shallow reefs. Biologists study them to understand how ecosystems function without primary production from photosynthesis, sustained instead by the slow rain of energy from above. Shrimp eggs are carried under the mother's tail until they hatch. When a female shrimp reproduces, she does not release her eggs into open water to drift and scatter. Instead, she holds them close, attaching hundreds or even thousands of tiny eggs to the underside of her curved tail. This creates a protective pouch where the eggs remain sheltered from currents and predators. The mother fans her tail regularly, moving water over the eggs to keep them oxygenated and free from fungus or debris. Depending on the species and water temperature, the eggs develop over days or weeks, gradually changing color as the embryos grow inside. When the time arrives, the larvae hatch and swim away into the plankton, beginning their independent lives. This extended care improves survival rates compared to broadcast spawning, where most eggs are lost before they can develop. Researchers observe brooding behavior to understand parental investment in invertebrates and how different strategies balance energy, risk, and reproductive success. For the female shrimp, carrying eggs means vulnerability and extra effort, but it also means her offspring start life with better odds. Some shrimp navigate using the position of the sun and moon. Navigation in the ocean requires reference points, and for animals without landmarks, celestial cues can serve as guides. Certain shrimp species, particularly those that migrate or move between habitats, appear to orient themselves using the angle of light from the sun or the moon. By detecting polarized light patterns in the sky, even through shallow water, they can maintain a consistent direction of travel. This ability helps them return to burrows, move toward feeding areas, or migrate along coastlines. The mechanism involves specialized photoreceptors that filter and interpret light in ways our eyes cannot, turning the sky into a compass that works day and night. Scientists study this navigation because it shows how small animals can solve large-scale spatial problems without maps or memory of distant places. A shrimp's world extends beyond what it can see directly. It includes the geometry of light itself, bending through water and air, pointing the way home. Mantis shrimp strikes can break aquarium glass if the tank is not reinforced. The power behind a mantis shrimp's punch is difficult to overstate. When kept in captivity, these animals have been known to crack or shatter standard aquarium glass with a single blow. The strike comes from a specialized pair of appendages that snap forward with such acceleration that the surrounding water cavitates, forming bubbles that collapse with additional force. This double impact can crack mollusk shells, stun fish, and now and then damage the walls of their enclosure. Aquarium keepers who work with mantis shrimp often use thicker acrylic or specially reinforced glass to contain them safely. The behavior is not aggression toward humans. It is simply how the animal interacts with its environment, testing surfaces, hunting prey, or defending territory. Observing this strength up close reminds researchers and hobbyists alike that small does not mean weak. In the case of the mantis shrimp, small means concentrated force, delivered with precision and startling speed. Shrimp can detect vibrations in the water from approaching predators. Long before a fish comes into view, a shrimp may sense its arrival through disturbances in the surrounding water. Tiny hairs and sensory structures along the body pick up vibrations caused by swimming movements, and the shrimp can interpret these signals to judge distance and direction. This early warning system allows the shrimp to hide, freeze, or dart away before the predator gets close enough to strike. In murky or dark environments where vision fails, vibration sensing becomes the primary means of awareness. The shrimp does not hear in the way we understand sound, but it feels the pressure waves traveling through the medium, translating motion into meaning. Biologists study these sensory adaptations because they show how different animals perceive the same world through entirely different channels. What seems silent to us can feel loud and urgent to a shrimp reading the water's shifting patterns. Certain shrimp species glow faintly in the dark through bioluminescence. While not as dramatic as some deep-sea creatures, a few shrimp species produce their own light, either through chemical reactions within their bodies or by hosting bioluminescent bacteria. The glow is often soft and blue-green, visible only in complete darkness or to animals with sensitive vision. This light can serve several purposes, such as startling predators, attracting mates, or communicating with others of the same species. In some cases, the shrimp may release a glowing cloud into the water as a decoy, similar to how squid use ink. The predator focuses on the bright distraction, while the shrimp escapes into the surrounding dark. Researchers find bioluminescence in shrimp intriguing because it appears across unrelated species, suggesting it evolved independently multiple times as a useful survival tool. Light in the ocean is not only something absorbed or reflected. For some shrimp, it is something made, controlled, and deployed when needed most. Shrimp molt more frequently when young, slowing as they mature. Growth happens fastest in the early stages of life, so young shrimp molt often, sometimes every few days or weeks. Each molt allows a noticeable increase in size and brings the animal closer to adulthood. As the shrimp matures, molting becomes less frequent. An adult may molt only a few times a year or even less, depending on the species and environmental conditions. This shift reflects changing priorities. A young shrimp must grow quickly to escape the size range where it is most vulnerable to predators. An older shrimp focuses more on reproduction and survival, investing energy in eggs or territory rather than rapid growth. The timing of molts can also be influenced by food availability, temperature, and season. Biologists track molting schedules to understand life history patterns and to estimate population growth rates. A shrimp's timeline is written in the rhythm of shedding and hardening, a biological clock ticking beneath the waves. Some shrimp species practice cooperative hunting in groups, while many shrimp are solitary or loosely social. A few species hunt together in ways that suggest coordination. They may form lines or clusters that flush prey from hiding spots or herd smaller animals into tighter areas where capture becomes easier. This behavior resembles the group hunting seen in some fish and marine mammals, though on a much smaller scale. The shrimp involved seem to benefit from each other's presence, whether through increased success rates or shared access to food that one individual could not access alone. Scientists observe these group dynamics to understand how cooperation evolves in invertebrates and what signals might coordinate action among individuals without complex brains. The shrimp are not making plans or discussing strategy, yet their movements align in ways that produce better outcomes than random activity would allow. In the end, cooperation does not require conversation. It only requires behavior that responds to the presence and actions of others. Shrimp in tidal zones time their activity to the rhythm of the tides. Living between land and sea means adapting to a world that floods and drains on a predictable schedule. Shrimp in tidal pools and mudflats often synchronize their feeding, movement, and hiding with the rise and fall of water. When the tide is high and water covers the rocks or mud, they emerge to forage and explore. As the tide retreats, they retreat as well, burrowing into sediment or sheltering under stones to avoid drying out or being spotted by birds. This tidal rhythm can become so ingrained that shrimp continue to follow it, even when moved to environments with constant water levels, as if carrying an internal clock tuned to the moon's influence on the sea. Researchers study these rhythms to understand how animals track time without mechanical devices or cultural calendars. For a tidal shrimp, time is not measured in hours. It is measured in the rising and falling pulse of the ocean itself. Harlequin shrimp hunt starfish and feed on them slowly over time. The harlequin shrimp has a diet that seems almost improbable. It feeds almost exclusively on starfish, creatures much larger and more heavily armored than itself. A pair of harlequin shrimp will work together to flip a starfish onto its back, then drag it to their lair. There, they consume the starfish gradually, starting with the tube feet and working inward, keeping the prey alive as long as possible to prevent spoilage. This macabre strategy ensures a fresh food source that can last for days or even weeks. The starfish cannot escape once overturned, and the shrimp's feeding style prevents waste. Observers find this behavior both fascinating and unsettling because it blurs the line between predation and farming. The shrimp are not keeping livestock, but they are managing their food in a way that extends its usefulness. In coral reef ecosystems, where food can be scarce, this slow, deliberate consumption makes sense as a survival strategy. Shrimp contribute to the diet of countless marine and coastal animals. From the smallest fish to the largest whales, shrimp appear on the menu across nearly every marine habitat. Seabirds pluck them from shallow waters. Larger fish hunt them along the seafloor. Whales strain vast quantities of shrimp-like krill from the open ocean, even humans have relied on shrimp as a protein source for thousands of years. This widespread importance means shrimp populations can influence the health and stability of entire ecosystems. When shrimp numbers decline, predators may struggle to find enough food, leading to cascading effects throughout the food web. When shrimp thrive, they support greater abundance at higher trophic levels. Fisheries managers pay close attention to shrimp stocks, not only for commercial reasons, but because these small animals hold ecosystems together in ways that are easy to overlook. A single shrimp may seem insignificant, but together they form the foundation of marine abundance. Some shrimp are nearly transparent, making them invisible in open water. Transparency serves as camouflage in places where there's nothing to hide behind. Certain shrimp species have evolved bodies so clear that light passes through them with minimal distortion, rendering them almost invisible to both predators and prey. This adaptation works best in open water or among floating seagrass and algae, where solid colors or patterns would stand out. The transparency is not perfect. Internal organs, eyes, and sometimes eggs can still be visible, creating faint shadows or colored spots. But in motion, especially in dappled sunlight, a transparent shrimp can vanish into the surrounding water. Researchers study transparency to understand how bodies reduce visibility and what trade-offs come with being see-through. Transparent animals often have delicate structures and may be more vulnerable to physical damage. But the ability to avoid detection can outweigh those risks in environments where being seen means being eaten. Antarctic krill, though not true shrimp, share many traits and ecological roles. Krill resemble shrimp in size, shape, and lifestyle, though they belong to a different taxonomic group. Like shrimp, they form enormous aggregations, filter feed on plankton, and serve as a critical food source for predators ranging from penguins to blue whales. Antarctic krill live in cold southern waters, where they gather in swarms so dense they color the ocean red-brown. These swarms can stretch for miles and contain billions of individuals. Krill feed on microscopic algae that grow on the underside of sea ice, and they play a central role in transferring energy from primary producers to the larger animals that depend on them. Climate change and industrial fishing both threaten krill populations, with consequences that could ripple across the entire Antarctic ecosystem. Scientists monitor krill closely because their abundance reflects the health of southern ocean food webs. Though not shrimp by strict definition, krill remind us how small crustaceans shape life on a planetary scale. Shrimp can live in caves where no light has reached for millennia. In underwater caves and subterranean pools, some shrimp species have adapted to complete and permanent darkness. These cave-dwelling shrimp often lack pigment, appearing pale or ghostly white, and many have reduced or absent eyes, since vision offers no advantage where light never penetrates. They navigate by touch and chemical sensing, relying on their antennae to explore explore their surroundings and locate food. The cave environment tends to be stable in temperature and chemistry, but food is scarce, arriving mainly as organic matter washed in from outside or as nutrients seeping through rock. As a result, cave shrimp tend to grow slowly and reproduce infrequently, living longer lives than their surface relatives. Biologists study these isolated populations because they offer insights into evolution and adaptation under extreme sensory deprivation. A cave shrimp lineage may have been separated from surface populations for thousands or even millions of years, developing unique traits that exist nowhere else on Earth. Shrimp farming provides livelihoods, but also raises environmental concerns. Across tropical and subtropical regions, shrimp aquaculture has become a major industry, producing millions of tons of shrimp for global markets each year. For many coastal communities, shrimp farming offers income and employment, supporting families and local economies. However, the expansion of shrimp ponds has also led to the destruction of mangrove forests, pollution from excess feed and waste, and disease outbreaks that can spread to wild populations. Some farms use antibiotics and chemicals that raise concerns about food safety and environmental health. In response, certification programs and improved management practices have emerged, aiming to balance production with sustainability. Researchers work with farmers and policymakers to develop methods that reduce environmental impact while maintaining productivity. The challenge lies in meeting demand for shrimp without degrading the coastal ecosystems that wild shrimp and countless other species depend on. It is a tension between immediate need and long-term stewardship. Ghost shrimp burrow so extensively they aerate beach sediments. Along sandy and muddy shores, ghost shrimp dig elaborate tunnel systems that can extend several feet below the surface. These burrows create pathways for oxygen to reach deeper sediment layers, supporting bacteria and other organisms that would otherwise struggle in low oxygen conditions. The burrowing activity also mixes nutrients and organic matter, cycling materials between the surface and deeper zones. For the shrimp, the burrow provides safety from predators and a controlled environment where they can feed on particles filtered from the water they pump through their tunnels. For the beach ecosystem, the presence of ghost shrimp can increase biodiversity and productivity. Birds sometimes probe the sand to catch these shrimp, and fish wait at burrow openings for them to emerge. Though hidden from casual view, ghost shrimp shape the physical and biological structure of the habitats they occupy, engineering the ground beneath our feet. Some shrimp produce sounds by rubbing body parts together. Communication in the ocean does not always rely on sight or chemical signals. Certain shrimp species create sound by stridulation, which involves rubbing specialized ridges or spines against other hard surfaces on their bodies. The resulting clicks, rasps, or buzzing noises can carry through the water, potentially serving as warnings, territorial signals, or even courtship calls. These sounds are typically low in volume compared to those made by snapping shrimp, but they can still be detected by nearby individuals or by sensitive recording equipment. The exact function of these sounds varies by species and context. In some cases, the noise may startle predators or rivals. In others, it may help individuals locate each other in murky or complex habitats. Researchers record these acoustic behaviors to build a more complete picture of shrimp communication, revealing that even animals without vocal cords can fill their environment with meaningful noise. Shrimp eyes can be compound like insects, with many tiny lenses. The structure of a shrimp's eye resembles that of insects more than fish or mammals. Instead of a single lens focusing light onto a retina, a shrimp's compound eye contains many small visual units called ommatidia, each capturing a piece of the total image. The brain then combines these fragments into a mosaic view of the world. This design allows for excellent motion detection and a wide field of view, though it may sacrifice some sharpness compared to camera-type eyes. The number of ommatidia varies by species, with some shrimp possessing thousands and others only a few hundred. In clear water, this vision helps them track moving prey, avoid predators, and navigate complex reef structures. In darker or murkier conditions, the eyes work alongside other senses to build awareness. The compound eye represents a different solution to the problem of seeing, one that evolution has refined over hundreds of millions of years across countless arthropods. Shrimp respond to water quality changes, making them indicator species. Sensitivity to environmental conditions can make an animal vulnerable, but it can also make it valuable as a monitor of ecosystem health. Many shrimp species react quickly to changes in temperature, oxygen levels, salinity, and pollution. When water quality declines, shrimp populations may shrink, individuals may behave abnormally, or reproductive success may drop. Scientists and environmental managers use these responses as early warnings of broader problems. A sudden decline in shrimp abundance can signal pollution events, habitat degradation, or shifts in water chemistry that might not yet be obvious through other measurements. In this way, shrimp serve as living sensors embedded in the ecosystem. Their well-being reflects the well-being of the water itself. Monitoring shrimp populations helps protect not only the shrimp, but also the larger community of organisms that share their habitat. When shrimp struggle, it often means the environment is changing in ways that will eventually affect many others. Some shrimp associate with anemones, gaining protection from stings, just as clownfish shelter among anemone tentacles. Certain shrimp species form partnerships with these stinging invertebrates. The shrimp develop a tolerance or immunity to the anemone's venom, allowing them to move freely through the tentacles that would paralyze most other small animals. In return for this protection, the shrimp may help keep the anemone clean, removing debris and parasites, or they may share scraps of food. The relationship benefits both parties, creating a small haven within the dangerous expanse of the reef. Predators that might otherwise hunt the shrimp learn to avoid the anemone, allowing the shrimp to forage and rest with reduced risk. Researchers study these partnerships to understand how immune tolerance evolves and how animals negotiate shared spaces. The shrimp's immunity is not accidental. It is a carefully calibrated adaptation that transforms a deadly neighbor into a reliable guardian. Shrimp have a simple digestive system suited to their scavenging lifestyle. Inside a shrimp's body, the digestive tract runs relatively straight from mouth to anus, passing through chambers where food is ground and enzymes break down organic material. This simplicity suits an animal that feeds opportunistically on detritus, algae, small invertebrates, and decaying matter. Shrimp are not picky eaters. They process what they find, extract nutrients, and expel the rest. The efficiency of this system allows shrimp to thrive in environments where food quality varies widely. Some meals may be rich in protein, while others consist mostly of plant matter or sediment with only trace nutrients. The digestive system adapts to handle this variability, making the most of whatever passes through. Biologists study shrimp digestion to understand nutrient cycling in ecosystems. Since what shrimp consume and excrete influences the availability of nutrients for plants and microbes. A shrimp's gut is a small factory, transforming organic matter into energy and waste that feeds the larger system. Freshwater shrimp migrate upstream to reproduce in some species. In tropical and subtropical rivers, certain freshwater shrimp undertake migrations that mirror those of salmon or eels, though on a smaller scale. Adults live in downstream reaches or coastal estuaries, but when it is time to reproduce, they move upstream to areas with specific water conditions, such as cooler temperatures or particular substrate types. After mating and egg-laying, larvae may drift back downstream with the current, dispersing to new areas before settling and growing. This migration strategy connects different parts of the river system and allows genetic mixing across populations. However, dams, pollution, and habitat alteration can disrupt these movements, isolating populations and reducing reproductive success. Conservationists study these migrations to identify critical habitats and migration corridors that need protection. A river is not just a channel of water. For migratory shrimp, it is a network of pathways that must remain open for life cycles to complete. Some shrimp change sex during their lifetime based on social conditions. Sex change, or sequential hermaphroditism, appears in several shrimp species as a flexible reproductive strategy. In some cases, individuals begin life as males and later transition to females, which tend to be larger and produce more eggs. In other species, the reverse occurs, with females becoming males when social or environmental conditions favor the change. This flexibility allows populations to adjust their sex ratios in response to mortality, competition, or the availability of mates. The transition involves hormonal shifts and physical changes that can take weeks or months to complete. Once the change is finished, the shrimp functions fully in its new role. Biologists study this phenomenon because it challenges fixed ideas about sex and reproduction, showing that biology can be fluid when flexibility improves survival and reproductive success. For the shrimp, sex is not a permanent identity, but a strategic response to the social landscape. Deep sea vent shrimp host bacteria that convert chemicals into food. In the absolute darkness surrounding hydrothermal vents, some shrimp have evolved a remarkable partnership with chemosynthetic bacteria. These bacteria live inside specialized chambers in the shrimp's body, often near the gills or mouth parts, and they use the energy from vent chemicals like hydrogen, sulfide to produce organic compounds. The shrimp benefits from this internal food source, supplementing or even replacing traditional feeding. In exchange, the shrimp positions itself near vent openings where the chemical concentrations are highest, exposing its bacterial partners to the resources they need. This mutualism allows the shrimp to thrive in an environment where conventional food chains do not exist. Researchers study these vent shrimp to understand the limits of life and the diversity of metabolic strategies that can sustain animals in extreme conditions. The shrimp is both a mobile habitat and a farm, cultivating microscopic partners that turn poison into nourishment. Shrimp populations can boom and crash with environmental cycles. Like many small, fast-reproducing animals, shrimp populations can fluctuate dramatically from year to year. Favorable conditions, such as warm temperatures, abundant food, and low predation, can lead to population explosions where shrimp become superabundant. Conversely, cold snaps, storms, disease outbreaks, or shifts in predator numbers can cause steep declines. These booms and busts are natural, though human impacts such as overfishing, pollution, and habitat loss can amplify the crashes and prevent recoveries. Fisheries that depend on shrimp must account for this variability, adjusting harvest rates and protecting key habitats to avoid depleting stocks during low periods. Scientists model these population dynamics to predict trends and inform management decisions. Understanding that shrimp populations are inherently variable helps prevent panic during downturns and overconfidence during abundance. The ocean is not steady. It pulses, and shrimp populations pulse with it. Shrimp are a favored subject for marine biology students and researchers. In laboratories and classrooms around the world, shrimp serve as model organisms for teaching and research. They are relatively easy to keep, reproduce in captivity, and have life cycles short enough to observe multiple generations within a single study. Students dissect shrimp to learn anatomy, observe their behavior in tanks to understand animal movement and feeding, and conduct experiments on topics ranging from physiology to ecology. Researchers use shrimp to investigate questions about molting, regeneration, sensory biology, and responses to environmental stress. The accessibility of shrimp makes them valuable for both education and science. They bridge the gap between simple textbook diagrams and the complexity of real living systems. A student's first encounter with marine biology might involve watching a shrimp scuttle across a tank bottom, antennae twitching, eyes scanning. And in that small moment, curiosity about the ocean can take root. Some shrimp carry commensal organisms like tiny worms or barnacles. A shrimp's body can become habitat for other creatures that attach to its shell or live within its gill chambers. Small barnacles may settle on the carapace, and certain worms may reside in the spaces between segments or near the gills. These hitchhikers typically do not harm the shrimp, relying instead on its movements to access food particles or oxygen-rich water. The relationship is commensal, meaning one party benefits while the other is largely unaffected. For the shrimp, the extra passengers may create slight drag or weight, but rarely enough to impact survival. When the shrimp molts, it sheds these guests along with its old shell, starting fresh until new organisms colonize the new exoskeleton. Biologists find these associations interesting because they reveal how even small animals can serve as ecosystems unto themselves. A shrimp is not just an individual. It is a moving island, hosting a tiny community that travels wherever it goes. Shrimp larvae are a key food source for many fish during spawning seasons. Timing matters in the ocean, and many fish species synchronize their own spawning with the peaks in shrimp larval abundance. When shrimp larvae fill the plankton, fish larvae and juveniles find a rich, accessible food source that supports rapid growth during their most vulnerable stages. This seasonal match between predator needs and prey availability can determine the strength of fish year classes and influence the productivity of entire fisheries. If environmental changes cause shrimp and fish spawning to fall out of sync, such as through warming waters or altered currents, the consequences can cascade through the ecosystem. Researchers study these temporal connections to understand how climate variability affects marine food webs. The ocean runs on schedules written by temperature, light, and the internal clocks of countless species. When those schedules align, life flourishes. When they drift apart, hunger follows. Coral reef shrimp help control algae and maintain reef health. On coral reefs, certain shrimp species graze on algae that grows on coral surfaces or rock. By keeping algae in check, these shrimp prevent it from overgrowing and smothering corals, which need light and clean surfaces to thrive. Other shrimp species pick at dead coral tissue or remove parasites from living corals, contributing to the overall hygiene of the reef. These small acts of maintenance add up across thousands of individuals and can influence the resilience of the reef to stress and disease. When shrimp populations decline due to overfishing or habitat loss, algae can proliferate unchecked, shifting the reef toward an algae-dominated state that supports fewer species and less diversity. Protecting herbivorous and cleaning, shrimp becomes part of broader reef conservation efforts. The health of the reef is not only about the corals themselves. It is also about the shrimp, the fish, the urchins, and all the other organisms performing daily tasks that keep the system balanced. Shrimp have been part of human diets for thousands of years. Archaeological evidence from coastal sites around the world shows that humans have harvested and eaten shrimp since prehistoric times. Shell middens, ancient trash heaps of discarded shells, reveal that shrimp were a regular part of the diet for many coastal and riverine communities. Over millennia, techniques for catching shrimp evolved from simple hand collection and basket traps to sophisticated nets and trawls. Today, shrimp remain one of the most economically important seafood products globally, traded across continents and prepared in countless culinary traditions. This long relationship between humans and shrimp reflects both the abundance of these animals and their nutritional value. They provide protein, essential fats, and minerals in a small, accessible package. As demand has grown, so too have concerns about sustainability and the ecological impacts of industrial shrimp fishing. Balancing tradition, economy, and environmental responsibility continues to shape how we harvest and consume these ancient companions of the shore. Shrimp can survive in a wide range of salinities, from fresh to hypersaline. Adaptability defines many shrimp species, and one of the most striking examples is their tolerance for varying salt levels. Some shrimp thrive in pure freshwater rivers and lakes, while others inhabit estuaries where salinity fluctuates with tides and rainfall. Still others live in hypersaline lagoons, where evaporation concentrates salt to levels far above normal seawater. This range requires sophisticated osmoregulation, the ability to control water and salt balance within the body. Shrimp achieve this through specialized cells in their gills and other tissues that pump ions in or out as needed. This physiological flexibility allows shrimp to colonize diverse habitats and to persist through environmental changes that would kill less adaptable species. It also makes them valuable for research into how animals cope with salinity stress, a topic that has implications for understanding impacts of climate change, pollution, and freshwater diversion on aquatic ecosystems. Certain shrimp produce eggs multiple times per year under good conditions. Reproductive output in shrimp can be impressively high when environmental conditions align. Females of some species carry eggs several times within a single year, each brood containing hundreds to thousands of eggs, depending on body size and species. This repeated breeding increases the chances that at least some offspring will survive to adulthood, compensating for high mortality rates among larvae and juveniles. In environments where food is abundant, temperatures are warm, and predation is manageable, rapid reproduction allows shrimp populations to grow quickly and take advantage of favorable windows. Conversely, in harsher conditions, reproduction may slow or pause entirely. This reproductive flexibility is another example of how shrimp respond dynamically to their surroundings. They are not locked into a single annual cycle. Instead, they read the environment and adjust their investment in offspring accordingly, balancing survival and reproduction in an ever-changing sea. Shrimp fossils provide insight into ancient marine ecosystems. The fossil record of shrimp and their relatives extends back hundreds of millions of years, offering glimpses into ancient seas and the evolution of crustacean life. Fossilized shrimp have been found in sedimentary rocks around the world, sometimes preserved in remarkable detail, with delicate appendages and even soft tissues visible. These fossils help scientists reconstruct past environments, understand how marine communities changed over geological time, and trace the evolutionary relationships among modern crustaceans. Some fossil shrimp resemble living species closely, suggesting that certain body plans have remained successful for eons. Others show strange or unfamiliar features, representing extinct lineages that experimented with different ways of life. By studying shrimp fossils alongside those of other organisms, researchers can piece together stories of ancient reefs, lagoons, and deep seas, learning how life responded to past climate shifts, mass extinctions, and the slow drift of continents. Shrimp play roles in nutrient cycling by excreting waste into the water. Every shrimp contributes to the chemical environment around it through respiration, excretion, and digestion. As they feed and metabolize, they release ammonia and other nitrogen compounds into the water, making these nutrients available for uptake by algae and bacteria. In this way, shrimp help recycle nutrients within ecosystems, transferring energy and matter from organic debris and prey into forms that primary producers can use. In dense populations, the collective waste output of shrimp can significantly influence local water chemistry and productivity. This nutrient cycling is especially important in habitats with limited external inputs, where internal recycling sustains the community. Shrimp are not only consumers, they are also transformers, breaking down complex organic matter and returning simpler building blocks to the environment. The ocean's productivity depends on these small but essential cycles, repeated endlessly by countless organisms. Some shrimp enter tide pools and remain stranded until the next high tide. Life in the intertidal zone demands tolerance for temporary isolation. When the tide recedes, some shrimp find themselves trapped in shallow pools among rocks and seaweed. These pools can become warmer, saltier, or more oxygen poor as the sun beats down and water evaporates. Yet many intertidal shrimp can endure these fluctuations, waiting patiently for the tide to return and reconnect them to the larger ocean. During this time, they may hide under stones, burrow into sand, or simply remain still to conserve energy and avoid attracting the attention of birds and other predators. The ability to survive these harsh interludes allows intertidal shrimp to exploit a habitat rich in food and relatively free from large marine predators. It is a trade-off, exchanging the safety and stability of deeper water for the challenges and opportunities of the tide's edge. The ocean's smallest shrimp can be less than a centimeter long. Shrimp come in a remarkable range of sizes, from giants that stretch over a foot in length to tiny species that could rest comfortably on a fingernail. These miniature shrimp occupy specialized niches, living among sand grains, within coral branches, or drifting in the plankton. Their small size allows them to exploit food sources and hiding places unavailable to larger animals, and their rapid reproduction can compensate for their vulnerability. Studying these tiny shrimp requires patience and magnification. Researchers use microscopes to examine their anatomy and fine nets to collect them from the water. Despite their size, these shrimp play roles in their ecosystems comparable to their larger relatives, feeding, reproducing, and being eaten in turn. They remind us that life in the ocean is not only about the large and the charismatic. It is also about the minuscule and the overlooked, the countless small lives that together form the living fabric of the sea. As we reach the end of our time with these small wanderers, let the details settle like sand in still water. We have drifted through coral stations and muddy burrows, through tide pools and the deep twilight where vents leak heat into the cold. We have watched shrimp glow, snap, molt, and navigate by the light of the sun and moon. We have seen them carry eggs beneath their tails, regrow lost limbs, and partner with bacteria in the dark. We have learned that small does not mean simple, and that a life measured in centimeters can still be rich with adaptation, survival, and quiet triumph. If this gentle journey brought you a moment of calm, consider leaving a like, subscribing, or sharing a thought about what stayed with you. It helps others find this corner of the night when rest feels far away. But there is nothing more you need to do now. Let your breath slow and deepen. Feel the weight of your head sinking into your pillow. Allow your thoughts to blur and soften, like shapes seen through water. The ocean continues its work without you. The shrimp will go on scuttling, hiding, glowing, and growing in the dark. You can let them go. You can let everything go. Rest well and good night.